My unfaithful spouse exhibited signs of distress and sought pardon, yet she will face the consequences of her actions. Approximately 7 months ago, I discovered my former spouse was engaging in an extramarital affair. I endured a prolonged period of emotional distress, including feelings of denial, pain, and attempts at reconciliation. I experienced a significant decline in my mental health. I never confronted my spouse directly, yet I was severely depressed. I believe she was aware of my suspicions but did not care. This assumption is based on my observation of her behavior approximately 2 to 3 months ago. At that time, I had reached a point of emotional exhaustion and was no longer invested in the marriage or my spouse. I had effectively withdrawn from the situation. The relationship between the two parties began to deteriorate as they prepared for divorce and the subsequent transition to new lives. The husband avoided his wife as much as possible, staying away from the house when she was home and avoiding any form of conversation when she asked him a question. He would only answer in the negative, or with a vague, "I don't know," or "I don't remember." He even left the divorce lawyer's bills out in the open, which his wife must have noticed. She even asked him about it, and the children even noticed what was going on. He even gave the "I love you, but I'm not in love with you" speech, which is often used in such situations. He tried to downplay his role in the dissolution of the marriage, claiming that it was not his fault. It is no longer possible for us to be together. My wife was present in the room at the time and must have heard me speak. She did not comment or object. I took her silence as consent. A few days ago, I met a woman I had known in school before I met my wife. We had a certain tension between us, a kind of chemistry that involved flirting and touching. However, we never actually did anything about it. Let us call her Monica, because I believe she resembles Monica Bellucci. Monica and her family relocated prior to my ability to take action. I regretted this for an extended period, but I was inexperienced, shy, and naive. I have not considered Monica for an extended period. In fact, I have not seen her for years. However, upon our initial encounter, the tension between us was palpable, even more so than I recall. Communication was effortless. I was asked out by Monica. I informed her of the circumstances surrounding my separation from my spouse and stated that I wished to be officially divorced before pursuing a romantic relationship. I assured her that I would not engage in infidelity and she respected my decision. She provided me with her contact information and encouraged me to contact her once I had completed my necessary tasks. She informed me that she had never been married and was eager to reconnect. I was similarly enthusiastic about the prospect of rekindling our acquaintance. The encounter served as a source of motivation for me. To finally confront my wife and officially begin the process of separation and divorce, I was pleased when I returned home and sat down to speak with her. I was visibly excited as I requested that she sit down and informed her that we needed to discuss the situation. I informed her that I had been aware of her infidelity for some time and that I had assumed she was aware of my knowledge, particularly given that I had distanced myself from the relationship for the past 3 months. Over the course of the following months, she did not appear to be distressed by my lack of interest in our relationship. Consequently, I informed her that I wished to pursue other romantic interests and move on with my life. I concluded by stating that, in light of the circumstances, I believed that divorce was the most appropriate course of action. Her response was markedly different from what I had anticipated. She began to cry, not just in a normal way, but in a way that was both intense and desperate. I had never heard anything like it. She began to make excuses and ask for second chances, but the affair was not a significant issue, it could be resolved through counseling. I was somewhat surprised by her reaction. I had assumed she would be pleased. I informed her that she could pursue the relationship with this individual without guilt. He is evidently more important to her than her family. If he were not, she would not have chosen to go with him in the first place. She must have been aware that this would have a detrimental impact on our family and marriage. I suggested that if she believed we needed to fix our family or our marriage, the time to do so would have been 7 months ago, before she had the affair. Now, it is too late, the marriage is irreparably damaged. I had not previously considered that we had any significant issues in our marriage. She ceased communication with me, and I am not a mind reader, so I was unable to discern the cause of her distress. However, her decision to engage in an affair with another man indicates that she believed there was something fundamentally wrong in our marriage. It is evident that she felt there was a problem that could not be resolved through discussion. The situation was irremediable. She was evidently willing to accept the prospect of our children growing up in a broken home. If not, why did she persist? I attempted to explain that it was impossible for her to be with this man for the past 7 months and that there was no way to undo the pain and suffering she had caused me. The pain she had caused me was so profound that I had reached a point of indifference, or even hatred. I was simply being civil for the sake of being able to co-parent. I informed her that I did not believe she ever cared about anyone else. I asserted that a person who cared even a little for someone else would not put them through this kind of pain. I further argued that they would not betray them in such a way. I told her that her assertion that she loves me has no meaning or credibility because her actions conclude exclusively. Prove otherwise. She became incoherent at this point. I was unable to comprehend her words. It was a jumbled mess. I had to call her sister because I was not going to take care of her. Her sister arrived and, after I explained the situation, she took her away. I felt immense relief when they left. The departure of the other woman finally allowed me to breathe freely for the first time in 7 months. I am uncertain as to what I am seeking. It is possible that she was aware of the inevitable outcome of her actions. It is equally possible that she desired this outcome. It is unlikely that she is unaware of the consequences of her behavior and choices. She is beautiful and intelligent. Our marriage was satisfactory until she began an affair. I have accepted that life changes. I have moved on from that period. She is now pretending to love me and wants us to remain married with a family. What could possibly be her motivation for this major drama at this point? What could she gain? It is difficult to imagine what her motivation could be. It is reasonable to expect that we will be attempting to reconcile at this point. Could she be attempting to gain some advantage by attempting to reconcile? I am unable to discern what that advantage might be. I have substantial evidence of her infidelity. I reside in a European country, and this would mean that she would not be entitled to alimony or other financial support. Could this be her motivation? Is she afraid that I will expose her? Is she attempting to elicit sympathy from me in order to avoid accountability for her actions? It is necessary to inform others of her actions. Her AP is married, which may explain her reticence. I am unsure whether she fears I will reveal her infidelity to his wife. I am struggling to comprehend the situation. I have attempted to clarify my thoughts, but I remain as perplexed as when I began this outburst. My unfaithful spouse continues to perplex me. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has taken the time to read and respond to my messages. I have been overwhelmed by the number of responses and the depth of emotion expressed. I have not had the opportunity to respond to everyone individually, but I have tried to read and consider each message. 3 days after the conversation with my former spouse, I was still processing the information and emotions that had been triggered. I had not slept much, and I remember waking up the next day with an interesting keyboard pattern on my computer. My face and a much clearer mind led me to the decision to create lists of key points for and against. I proceeded to affix papers to the wall, upon which I inscribed headlines. These included, how to behave when meeting the wife, questions to ask my wife, and Monica questions. The final document, which is too voluminous to retype here, will be made available upon request. The objective was to identify the core principles and the most important aspects to prioritize. Each of these was then evaluated to ascertain the likelihood of achieving meaningful results and the potential outcomes in the event of success. For the children, I consider them to be my primary concern. I will increase my efforts to assist them in coping with this situation. This may involve individual counseling, family counseling, arranging trips, and spending more quality time together. Additionally, I will encourage the rest of the family to provide them with unconditional love and support. I will also engage in open communication with their teachers and coaches. It is also important to consider the support system of the children. I have arranged for an STI test and have also booked DNA testing of the children. The possibility that they may not be mine is a concern, but it is necessary to ensure their well-being. If they are not mine, there may be medical history that they need to know. One must consider the possibility that the children may seek contact with their biological father in the future. How will they perceive me if I do not act promptly to ascertain their paternity? It is my hope that they are mine, but I will remain anxious until I have confirmation. After consulting with their therapists, the children have expressed interest in joining our family. We have explained the situation in detail and allowed them to ask questions. I reiterated to them on numerous occasions that they could approach me with any questions they had. I informed them that I am their father and that I love them unconditionally. I assured them that I would always be there for them, providing them with whatever support they needed, regardless of the circumstances. Regarding my marriage, I came to the conclusion that I could never trust my wife again without trust. I realized that it was not possible to have a relationship without trust. In order to maintain a relationship, I also came to the conclusion that I do not love my wife. The love I once felt for her has been significantly diminished by the infidelity she has committed. This has led to a profound change in my perception of her. While I recognize that it may be possible for me to learn to love her again, I am unsure if I am willing to do so. I am disinclined to pursue a dissolution of the marriage and to resume a life apart. I no longer desire this union. I no longer desire our relationship. I no longer desire her. The part of me that loved her, the part of me that used to feel endless joy and happiness when thinking about her, that now fills me with dread and memories of pain. In fact, any thought of association with her is now repugnant to me. The prospect of divorce is currently a source of significant distress for me. I am of the opinion that it would be preferable to conclude the marriage as soon as possible. With regard to Monica, I have engaged in extensive discussions with her. Based on the feedback I have received on Reddit, I have reservations about the wisdom of entering into a new relationship. I am also reluctant to involve her in the complexities of my current situation. It is evident that my life is currently in a state of disarray. However, she has a differing perspective. She asserts that life is inherently messy and that it is preferable to navigate these challenges together while in a relationship. I discovered the reason for her lack of marital experience. She had been engaged, but her fiancé unexpectedly passed away due to a work-related accident nearly 5 years ago. This incident caused her significant distress, and despite having gone on a few dates since, she had not been able to form a connection with anyone. From her perspective, given the brevity of life and the necessity of taking risks when presented with genuine opportunities, she was open to exploring a new relationship. I explained that I did not intend to initiate any romantic involvement until the divorce proceedings were finalized. I also clarified that I did not wish to engage in infidelity while technically still married to her. She concurred and expressed her respect for my assertion that it would be perceived as suspicious if we were to display an item publicly, as it would be easy to accuse her of being a homewrecker. She concurred and agreed to wait until after the legal separation is official before taking any action. She acknowledged her feelings for Monica and agreed to refrain from contacting her until she is done with the legal separation. I would organize my affairs and contact her when I was ready. We would then determine our next steps. When it came to planning the meeting with my wife, I wrote down some principles regarding my desired identity. In my meeting with her, I would strive to embody the man I used to be before this situation arose. I decided I needed to remain calm and avoid cruelty. I would keep in mind that the purpose of this conversation was to move on with our life and to be able to I have endeavored to ascertain the rationale behind her decision to engage in an extramarital affair and to gain insight into her future intentions. I have resolved not to be deceitful or to offer her false hope that reconciliation was a possibility, solely for the purpose of negotiating a post-nup or other benefits in the context of divorce. I have opted to act in a manner that is as fair and impartial as possible. This entails a division of assets between us in an equal manner. Despite her reprehensible conduct, I will not use her as a role model. I will act in a manner that I can justify today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now. I harbor resentment towards her for her actions, which have negatively impacted me, our children, and our relationship. However, I cherish the memories of our shared experiences and our children, whom we created and raised together. Going forward, I will attempt to view her actions in a more positive light. I will not dwell on her infidelity. I harbored resentment toward my ex-wife for some time, and I eventually came to recognize that forgiving her was essential for my own well-being. Our marriage was, in many ways, a model of fidelity and mutual support. We made love daily, spent quality time together, and rarely argued. We were willing to make sacrifices for each other. I had been quite open with her, but her infidelity revealed that she had not been as forthcoming with me. The incident in question occurred on Saturday. I proceeded to visit her. Her sister had informed me that she was not in good physical condition. My former spouse appeared to be in a poor state of health. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face was swollen, and her hair was unkempt. She appeared to have shrunk in size, as if she had imploded into herself. It was evident that she had not slept or eaten much during the previous week. We all sat down, and my former spouse was visibly shaking. I felt surprisingly calm. I empathized with her obvious distress, but not as a loving spouse. I felt for her. The pain I felt was akin to that experienced by an actor in a movie. I am unsure how to describe the sensation. It confirmed my suspicion that I no longer love her. I simply waited for her to regain her composure enough to speak. She attempted several times, but would break down in tears upon seeing her. It is evident that her distress is genuine. I have observed her cry on numerous occasions, but never with such intensity. It is possible for individuals to feign tears, but I doubt anyone can fake the look of crying. After a week of emotional distress, including prolonged sobs and the formation of large nasal secretions, she finally began to speak. The release of pent-up emotion was palpable. She expressed sincere apologies for her actions, and there was no attempt to shift the blame to me or to her sister. Her sister also exhibited emotional distress, crying intermittently and berating her. It became evident that her sister had informed her of the potential consequences of her actions. It was revealed that her sister's infidelity had resulted in the demise of her fiancé a year prior. I was previously unaware that her sister's infidelity had precipitated a midlife crisis in my wife. She began to contemplate infidelity on a regular basis. Ultimately, it seems that she engaged in the act of infidelity due to a sudden infatuation. SL developed a crush on the man in question and was unable to resist the temptation. She was convinced that I would never discover her infidelity or that anyone would be harmed as a result. This was a purely selfish act. She was apparently very content in our marriage. She convinced herself that she deserved this fling and that I would likely support her decision if I were aware of her true feelings. She believed that this affair would pass and that we would resume our happy family lives. She had no inkling that I had discovered her infidelity until I began to investigate. She only began to question her actions when I started to check her phone. I learned that she had broken up with the AP approximately 1 month prior. 5 months ago, the fervor had begun to dissipate. She provided me with her mobile device so that I might ascertain the situation. Upon unblocking him, messages dating back 1.5 months began to pour in. She had been attempting to rekindle our relationship. He attempted to rekindle the relationship, but she had not shown any interest in engaging with him until he confronted her. She believed that they could reconcile and that they would emerge stronger than before. However, when he confronted her, she understood that this was probably the end of the line. The revelation was a profound one. I attempted to inquire about her rationale for this decision, particularly with regard to her perception of her own entitlement to act in this manner. In essence, her actions were driven by a profound sense of self-interest, which I had previously identified as a significant factor in her decision-making process. As many of you have observed, I will likely never obtain the answers I seek, as they simply do not exist. There is no acceptable rationale for her actions. Therefore, I will never receive an acceptable answer. However, I did achieve a sense of closure in a peculiar manner. I was able to convey to her the extent of the damage she had caused, the immense pain she had inflicted. I managed to persuade her that it was her responsibility for the dissolution of our marriage and that our children would grow up in an unstable environment. This gave me a peculiar sense of peace. She had been reading. She had a complete timeline and a detailed confession, which she had signed and prepared for me. I have not read it. Instead, I gave it to my lawyer. She repeatedly begged for a second chance and offered to do anything to prove her sincerity. However, I did not believe her. In fact, I did not believe anything she said. It is my contention that she cannot be trusted. I inquired as to what she could do to repair the damage. I informed her that she was the one who had broken it. I asked her how she expected me to present her with a solution. I posed the question to her as to whether she would be in my position and, if so, what she would say. This line of questioning continued for some time. Eventually, she conceded that, had the roles been reversed, she probably would not have forgiven me. I informed her that I had obtained an STI test and that I would undergo a DNA test on the children. She became visibly distressed for approximately 20 minutes when she heard this. She asserted that this was the only instance in which she had ever engaged in infidelity or other inappropriate conduct. After a period of deliberation, she conceded that I had no reason to believe her and that, if she were in my position, she would be unlikely to confess. She would likely engage in the same conduct. I inquired as to whether AP's wife was aware of her actions. She was uncertain. She conceded that she deserved to know. I inquired as to whether she should inform her or if I should do so. She requested that I consider reconciling or engaging in marriage counseling if she informed her. I declined, stating that it would not impact my opinion of her. She promised to inform AP's. The wife and other individuals would also be informed of the situation by the aforementioned individual. I informed her that I did not believe her, and she swore that she would never be with anyone else and that she would never give up on getting back with me, even if it took the rest of her life. I did not believe her, but I did not say anything, as it was becoming redundant at this point. She offered me I proposed a one-sided open marriage, access to all her communication, and 24/7 availability. I informed her that I had consulted with Monica and that I was waiting because I did not wish to engage in infidelity. I did not desire to be in an open relationship, as it would cause her pain and I did not wish to inflict similar suffering upon her. Furthermore, I did not wish to be her jailer, constantly monitoring her. Furthermore, suspicion is not a foundation for a healthy relationship. I am not interested in intimacy without a deeper connection. Sex for the sake of mechanical sex has no value for me. If I require mechanical release, I can address that independently. I do not require a partner for that at this point. We had been going out for over 5 hours, and my wife and I had been crying for an extended period of time, from a level of distress that was both severe and unbearable. I informed her that I had lost the capacity to love her and that our family had been irreparably damaged by her actions. I also stated that I would pursue a divorce and that she could not undo the damage she had caused. The only way to avoid this outcome would have been for her to refrain from initiating the affair 7 months ago. I was not interested in restoring our marriage, nor did I desire her return. I was not interested in further pain. I proposed that we engage in a period of no contact to gain some distance and perspective. I informed her that I had already initiated the divorce proceedings and that my decision was final. I informed her that we could commence family therapy to I am the child of the woman in question, but beyond that, I do not even want to see her. It was an incredibly painful experience to tell her that she was crying hard while mumbling, "No, no, no, please, no, please, no." When I got up to leave, she began to experience a massive, almost explosive nosebleed. She started to reach for me, but she passed out. I managed to catch her before she hit the floor. I drove her and her sister to the emergency room and stayed until I learned that she would be okay. Last night and today, the former spouse has been disclosing the details of the incident to various individuals. The AP's wife contacted me this morning to verify the accuracy of her spouse's account. I provided her with copies of the evidence I had recently uncovered. This included information about the former spouse's decision to evict her husband. She expressed a desire to meet with me and review additional evidence that she had been suspecting for some time. However, she lacked concrete proof. I suggested that we schedule a dinner meeting for tomorrow. She expressed a need to discuss the matter further. I inquired as to whether we could speak by telephone. I am uncertain as to whether I am able to accommodate that request at this time. I informed her that perhaps we could speak at a later date. I must admit that I am experiencing a sense of inadequacy and self-reproach. I have been unable to sleep, and cracks are forming in my resolve. I am aware that I must maintain my composure, but it is a challenging task. I am perplexed by my feelings of guilt and responsibility to attempt to repair the situation. It is possible that we may be able to deceive ourselves for a period of time, but it is unlikely that this approach will be sustainable in the long term. Many of her acquaintances and relatives have been contacting me to express their displeasure. They believe that I should grant her a second chance, but in my opinion, prolonging the agony is futile. It would be more beneficial to confront the situation head-on and begin the process of healing and rebuilding lives. That is the extent of my thoughts on the matter. I do not consider this to be a particularly noteworthy event. There is no sense of vengeance, no sense of resolution, no sense of peace, and no sense of a happy ending. Instead, it is simply more pain for all involved. My mind is currently in a very dark place. I am unsure of the best course of action.